Wayne Altman, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's a huge pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with what you do, would you like to tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure. Venus, thank you very much for having me, by the way. We had a little bit of a chance to chat, and I really, I think what you're doing is very important. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, thank you.
As far as melody clouds go, I spent 8.5 years in the Army, U.S. Army. And I lost about 70% of my hearing during that time. And I also gained what is referred to as tinnitus or tinnitus, which is a ringing, a sharp, for me, it's a squeal. I hear it right now. And it follows me from the time I wake up in the morning until the time I go to bed at night. I hear this noise. I never hear silence.
Is it in both ears or just one?
Both ears. It's actually in the middle of my head. I mean, it feels like it's like right in the middle of my head, and it is very loud and it's very obnoxious. You just never get away from it. And last May, a friend of mine who also suffers from this condition, and basically what you're hearing is the damage you've done to the audio nerve. So the nerves that, let you hear things. When you bump your elbow, you get that sharp, pain. It's very similar to that. That's how I describe it and how it's been described to me. Anyway, he said, I want you to listen to something. And he played this music. And in the music were binaural beats. And I'll get into that in just a second. And I heard silence.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Except for the music. And it was abrupt. It was like snapping your fingers. It was very abrupt. Now, it happened on the third or fourth set of frequencies that he played for me. So the first frequency, nothing. Second frequency, nothing. Third frequency, bang. It was sharp, abrupt, and it was glorious. And I said, listen, don't make me beat this out of you. What did you do? What is this? And so he explained to me, it's a binaural beats. And then I just dove in head first. I got to know what this is and what it can do. And turns out there's a lot that we can talk about that binaural beats and solfeggio do.
So what is a binaural beat exactly?
Great question. Yeah, start right at the beginning. A binaural beat is two separate frequencies, one in each ear. Your brain then mimics, or your brain basically splits the difference between the two frequencies. And that's the frequency that it actually is dealing with. And with that, what you can do is you can block grief. You can initiate healing. You can bring someone into focus. There's a lot that can be done with binaural beats.
I have to tell you, I'm a huge fan of binaural beats. I've been listening to them for maybe the last 4 or 5 years since I discovered this thing called sex magic. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a type of manifestation process. So I always actually give workshops on this. So I always choose a binaural beat that's related to my desired outcome. So I always tell my students about binaural beats. But I always tell them that we have to listen to them with headphones. Is that correct? To get them medicinal effects?
Okay, so yes and no. But to begin with, that is 100% what I have found as well, because you are talking about two different frequencies. However, they can also do a solfeggio, which is one frequency, or I have found for me, I don't need to listen to that music with headphones any longer. My brain is actually able to pick out the two frequencies and get back to the frequency that we're talking about without listening with headphones on. So at night, when I want to go to sleep, I listen to 432 hertz, knocks me out like dropping a sack of potatoes. And I started off wearing soft headphones, a headband, but I don't have to do that anymore. I can turn the music on and it'll put me right to sleep.
Yeah, because even if you don't have the headphones on, it still sounds nice because it's very relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time you can't pick out the frequencies. Most of the frequencies they're not necessarily, for me especially, they're not audible, but it is something that my brain is picking up.
Yeah, because a lot of them have kind of maybe nature sounds over the music and just different.
That's the way Melody Clouds is. We have guided meditations with binaural beats. We have music, different types of music with binaural beats. One of the things that we're working on right now is being able to create a player that will overlay binaural beats over any music in your playlist.
So tell us about, so you had this experience with you use this for your own healing, and then you've created Melody Cloud. Can you tell us about that? And how did you go from just using it for your own improvement to actually wanting to share it and create a platform? What was that like, and what was the motivation?
Yeah, the impact on this for me was tremendous. So when I heard this and knew, okay, I've been suffering from this for 30 years, and just like this, you were able to take that away briefly even. I know a lot of people that are suffering from tinnitus. And so this would be something for me to bring to people. People got to hear about this. I didn't realize that, there's tons of people that already know all about it, but there's even more people that don't know and have never experienced it. End of May was when this happened.
Just last year? Just so you sit with it.
2022, this last May.
Wow. So you're a doer. You take action. That's amazing.
Venus, you have no idea. My wife will just like, what? You did what? Yeah. So, okay. End of May. So 25th, 26th, I had this experience. June 1st, we bought the domain melodyclouds.com, and it took me 4 days to come up with a name of what I wanted to call this. Many, iterations of it. Finally settled on Melody Clouds. From June 1st to today, we have 300,000 files, 8,000 hours of binaural beats, lullabies, Aesop's fables, audiobooks, 17,000 audiobooks, 30,000 books, and we're about to add another 8,000 episodes of old time radio, because it's morphed into a more relaxation and not just of solfeggio and binaural beats.
So what kind of books do you have on there? Out of curiosity.
All the classics, from Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer in multiple languages. We have Pride and Prejudice, all of the really classic, great, all the Jules Verne collection, all read by people with magnificent voices. But here's what I found. Some people like reading books. Okay, that we've got those. Other people like being read too. It calms them down, or if they're taking a long trip, they would much rather listen to a story and use their imagination. So that's the whole reason behind the audiobooks. And we add titles every single month.
Amazing. That's so incredible.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between a binaural beat and solfeggio? And
great. Yeah.
I just think about the headphones, really. That's kind of, for me, the big difference, like the other one.
Well, the difference is solfeggio was observed, I don't say invented, it was observed by an 11th century monk named Guido di Arezzo. And Guido recognized that let me ask you this. Do you play a musical instrument?
I did when I was a child, so I can read music. I can play.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. I have not. I couldn't pick up a drum and make a noise. I'm totally inept when it comes to music. But the thing that you and I share is the fact that if someone played a bad note, we'd both recognize it. If someone's singing off key, you're going to know, and I'm going to know. If someone's playing a piano and it needs to be tuned, we're both going to look at one another, and we're going to recognize that. That is solfeggio. Recognizing those things that are improperly at an improper vibration. And that's what he observed, that when we're at an improper vibration, when we're not quite right. And if you can bring people back to that, then they start to heal quicker. They start to go to sleep. They start to, it affects their mood. And that's what Melody Clouds is. Our tagline is take control of your mood, take charge of your mood. If you're angry and don't want to be, come in, listen to this, and fix it. If you're sad and you don't want to be, hey, we have music that will block that and you'll become happier.
I understand completely, because when I discovered all this type of music, and I'm also quite into mantras as well, medicinal kind of Sanskrit mantras, and I just found that I couldn't really appreciate commercial music in the same way. I felt like it was doing me a disservice for my health. You know, when you think about certain types of music kind of getting you angry, and you think that's a good thing sometimes, you think it's kind of motivating.
Sure.
But in fact, I mean, I listen to, you know, I mean, for binaural beats, I listen to frequencies related to concentration and focus when I'm working, and then later in the evening it'll be more kind of relaxation stuff. A lot of money frequency, I listen to that a lot as well. And also when I've had times of illness, I was in hospital with COVID pneumonia, and I was listening to lung frequencies. So I think it's incredible that you can actually go into YouTube and just, or Melody Clouds, I suppose, as well, where you can think of any desired outcome, and there's a frequency for that. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. And that's the whole reason why we did it. And by the way, you know, it's okay to say, you know, there are other sources of this. One of the things that I remind people is you can go to a Chinese restaurant and get a hamburger. You know, hamburgers are kind of ubiquitous. You know, you can go to a hamburger place and get a hamburger, or you can go to practically especially here in the States, you can go to practically any restaurant and order a hamburger. That part of it is, you know, I don't look at people as competing with Melody Clouds. They're offering the same service. We offer this to try it out, 60 days, $2.99.
Wow.
At the end of the 2 months, at the end of the 60 days, it's $5.99 for the same beats that people would find, or the same music, or the same entertainment people would find elsewhere. And they're paying $25, $30 a month for. So and I don't sell information. So all of my subscribers know that it stops with me. I'm not sharing my customers' information with others. That to me sounds antithetical to relaxation. We're more of a relaxation website now, a destination for, you know, no matter how it is you relax, that's what we're about. That's what we're trying to achieve for people.
So it's a website. Are you thinking about making an app as well? Or do you...
We have an app. We have an Android app and an Apple iOS app. So yes, we want you to be able to take Melody Clouds with you wherever it is you go.
So you're actually commissioning the music yourself, or how is it?
I do. I own every scrap of music on Melody Clouds. So, and I did that, you know, I didn't want to, now maybe some point we'll go to a licensing model. I'm not discounting that. But what I found was very quickly, that people were ridiculous. I would have to charge way more than what I'm charging in order to, and I think I've found a way around it. And that's great, because if you're already paying for that music, pop music somewhere else, if I have a way of overlapping or overlaying binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies over, say, Madonna or Lady Gaga or Justin Timberlake, you know what I mean, regular pop music, then that seems like it would be a much better way of going. You're already paying for the privilege of listening to that art. Why in the world would you need to pay me more to do that?
Okay, so tell us about the importance of relaxation in general. I guess a lot of people are reporting that it's just improving their mood.
Yeah, so look, here's the thing. I am the least woo-woo person on the planet, okay? I mean, look at me. I was in the army. I mean, I am not your, fairy dust and magical kind, but I recognize science. I know science. And for me, this was the fact that it doesn't work the same way on every single person. You said it yourself earlier when you said, look, you don't listen to pop music. The type of music you're drawn to is this certain type of music. That says to me, look, this is science. It works because, to me, it's real, because it doesn't work the same way on everyone. If I were to hand you a pill to cure your headache, or you had a stomach issue, okay, so pharmaceuticals, and it didn't work, you would go back to your doctor, you'd come back to me, and you would say, this didn't work, and I would prescribe something else. It's perfectly acceptable. Everyone understands that. Your body is different than mine. So these, I'm looking at the frequencies. I have them listed right in front of me, because I do this all the time. Those frequencies don't work the same way on every single person. And that really, to me, is what makes it even more real. By the way, take the frequencies out of it for just a second. Let's say that the argument is binaural beats, solfeggio frequencies don't work. We already know, and we have known from the beginning of time, that music is extraordinarily powerful. The first music that was ever created, do you know what its use was?
No. To
warn other tribes not to mess with us. So those drum beats, that form of communicating to people that were not part of our group, stay away. We are bad. You don't want to mess with us. It was a form of protection. We use it the same exact way today. You and I walk down the street. I say, let's go have some lunch. You say, great. I said, first, let's stop. I got to stop at the church for a moment. We walk in. You don't belong to this church, but the music that you hear immediately alerts you it's time to be reverential. You're going to lower your voice. It changes your mood the moment you walk in and hear that music. Or if I say to you, Venus, we're going to catch this movie. Well, you don't know what kind of movie we're going to see, but it tells you by the soundtrack of that movie. What type of movie, how to feel about the images on the screen. Even silent movies were not silent. Silent movies had a piano player at the front banging away on the piano to tell you how you're supposed to feel about the images in front of you.
Absolutely. I can think about, it makes me think about, horror movies. I'm not really into that, but it's all about the music, isn't it?
Of course it is.
You just imagine if you're just walking down a hallway, slowly, but if it's got this like really crazy music, you'd be like, oh my God, what's about to happen?
Yeah. You could play a wedding video.
Yeah.
You could play a wedding video with a horror soundtrack and make it, the worst, the most intimidating scenes of all time. But I'll go even one better. The movie Wall-E. Are you familiar with it?
No, I don't know.
Wall-E, it's about a little robot.
No.
Pixar. Okay, well, I have small children, and believe me, people with small kids, they are going to be able to tell. They know what Wall-E. Wall-E was about a little robot, and it was designed to clean up after our mess we've made on Earth. Everyone on Earth had left, and they left this Wall-E robot to clean up after them. For an hour and 40 minutes, there was no dialogue whatsoever in that movie. And yet, 4- and 5-year-olds sat with their hands in their lap, watching, laughing, crying, all going through everything that this little robot was going through. And there was no words. They understood perfectly what this movie was trying to tell them. Or The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. Have you ever seen that movie?
It sounds scary.
Yeah. Alfred Hitchcock. It was probably one of the most frightening movies that's ever been made, and it had no soundtrack whatsoever, and that made it even more terrifying. Alfred Hitchcock fought tooth and nail trying to keep the studio from putting a soundtrack over that film, and he did it to preserve the fear people felt, and knowing any minute now this ominous music is going to play. No, it never did, and it really terrified people.
Wow, it's incredible, the power of music. And also
one more example. Let's say that you wanted to go work out, okay?
And this is a great example. Yeah.
I say to you, we're going to find out. We got a group of 10 people with us. And we're going to find out who's going in to work out and who's going in to socialize, who's going in to, they have no intention of getting a good workout in. Quickest way to do that is to have everyone open up their playlist and let's find out who has the music to work out by. Generally speaking, it's heavy metal. It's, you know, something that's really energetic, and it's going to really allow you to get your pump on. If you're listening to country music, or you're listening to bluegrass or something like that, you're there to socialize. You're not there to get a good workout in.
Absolutely, because I go to this private gym now, and most people just wear their little headphones and or the earbuds, and I don't have those. I go with a friend, then we go there hoping that no one is using the speakers, because I mean, otherwise to do a whole workout with someone else's music that's all boom, boom, boom
doesn't really work.
Oh no, I don't mind a bit of like house and stuff, but it has to be. I prefer. Yeah. I just, it's a totally different experience if I've chosen the music. And also like sex scenes are kind of you know, saxophone, and it's like if you're sitting,
it puts you in the mood.
But I just remember being a kid and like, or a teenager, and then watching something on TV with my parents on the sofa, and then you hear the saxophone, you're thinking, oh no, you're just mortified,
yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. But that's a good thing that they put that music in to clue you in. Hey, we're about to, you know, show you some scenes you may not want to be around family members for, you know.
And also remember when I was growing up in England as well, like coming home drunk from the pub, and they had this some kind of French movies on, because they're very different. Like European movies don't have all of so much music to explain emotions. You have silence and ticking clocks and long stares. So it was, but it was all this anticipation in the air, but it's about what's going to happen.
But see, they do that to be disconcerting. They do that to put you off balance in a place where that music can be that stability for you. But you know, these movies that are there to guide your emotions. That's what the soundtrack is there for. Now, you remove that. It's a good point. You remove that. Now you're on unstable ground. You don't have anything to grasp. You don't have anything to hold on. All you're left with is that visual and those sound effects. It's more real life. So my point being that we already know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we can manipulate moods, we can manipulate situations by just placing a soundtrack, listening to certain music. It always brings you and puts you in those different places. Add on top of that the binaural beats or solfeggio, and it gives you another tool for your toolbox in managing your emotions.
So do you listen to binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies every day? Do you have a kind of...
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. Look, there are people that take medications every single day, and they put up with whatever side effects, if there are any, put up with any side effects that you may experience. I have a tendency to listen to 285 hertz. That puts me in, seems to focus me in the morning. So I'll listen to that in the morning, and I'll help it. It helps me focus my day, my tasks for the day. At night, 432 hertz, that drops me like a sack of potatoes because I'm a mind racer.
So we always talk about, so 432 is often referenced. So what's so special about 432 hertz? Because this is like a very popular frequency. It has a very special...
432 basically mimics REM sleep. So people that are going, that are in REM sleep, that's a very common frequency that their brain... Here, this is how it works, really. The way that it's been explained to me, I am no, brain surgeon or doctor of any kind, but this is what I've studied and what sticks out to me. Our brains are electrical. We know this. And it sends signals throughout our body, and those thoughts that we have are all electrical impulses. They can all be measured with an EEG. We know what frequency anger is. We know what frequency happiness is. And so if you're able to manipulate the frequencies that your brain is sending those signals out, you're going to mimic those emotions. 432 happens to be the frequency of REM sleep. It works like a charm for me, so I know what my experience is with it. I've also met people it does not affect the same way. Some people, it just brings them into the zone. You've heard people, oh, he's in the zone. Well, it focuses them, but it doesn't make them drowsy. Me, drops me like a bad habit. It is crazy. I will lay in bed, and if I don't listen to music, I'll watch TV. That tends to focus me, but I'll lay there and my mind will race between thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think 100 things at once, and I'll lay there for hours not getting any sleep. But if I turn on a binaural beat, if I turn on that music, 4:32, again, within 10, 15 seconds, I don't even know after about 10 or 15 seconds what that track does. It could play AC/DC and it could play Ozzy Osbourne. I don't know. But after about 10 or 15 seconds of listening to that music, I get very drowsy and drift off to sleep very quickly.
So what other frequencies do you tend to use in your day-to-day life?
So 432 for me, 432, and then 396 and 174. 174 is pain relief and stress relief, so it helps me relax. And then 396, did I say right? 396 is more of a spiritual kind of, it's supposed to like relieve guilt and relieve, it's another stress relieving,
like negative emotions, or something like a cleansing your emotions.
Right. It brings me to kind of a spiritual place. And I don't use that one as every day like I do some of the others, but it is nice to feel. I like the feeling of being contemplative. Mm-hmm. I like that feeling. Some people enjoy, when I was younger, I enjoyed Depeche Mode and The Cure and the Smiths. And it was that depressive feeling that I always, I'm 55 years old, I can listen to Depeche Mode, The Cure, and the Smiths, and it puts me right back in those emotions of when I was a teenage boy. And I enjoyed that.
Yes, that melancholy. I'm from Manchester, so
that's exactly the word I was going to use. Melancholy. Yep. For some reason, that depressive emotion, melancholy, that's a great, that is exactly the term. I enjoyed that melancholy feeling.
And it's very typical in British music as well, I suppose. Because I think here in Spain, where I'm living, is more the sun and love, that type of thing. Whereas in England, it was, Manchester is like 180 days of rain. So that's definitely melancholic, and it's definitely inspiring. And I think also music with lyrics, especially, helps us most people cannot express their emotions. Let's be clear about that. But so I think music is like, it's giving you a script for how you feel, sometimes a certain song can make you cry or whatever, or takes you back to a certain memory or reminds you of someone, a time.
We have people reach out to us all the time. And one of the things that they reach out to us about is PTSD and just debilitating grief. And when you're using binaural beats, that really it's not passive. You're actively trying to change the frequency of someone's thoughts. And that's what makes it so intriguing and so, effective. You are physically going in there and kind of, slapping them in the face and saying, no, think this way. This is the way so you're taking that heavy grief away from them. Very important. Now, it's also important that I mention there are a lot of people that do that pharmaceutically. In other words, they take medication to prevent clinical depression. I'm not suggesting that this is going to, that you supplant one for the other. No. Mm-hmm. What I'm suggesting, though, is if you're sad and you don't want to be sad, and you also don't want the side effects of medication, there may be an alternative that you can use and serve the same purpose. But I am not in any way saying don't take your medication, just listen to this music. That would be irresponsible. No, of course not. Don't do that.
Definitely. I saw today in a news article that they were referring to things like Reiki and massage as complementary therapy rather than alternative, which is a great advance for language. I think all these things are definitely complementary, rather than alternatives. And I read that you also have other online businesses that are related to improving lifestyle. So what else are you doing as apart from relaxation?
So we do have I operate 14 businesses. Most of them
Wow.
operate, I use technology to help me do that. Don't have to be involved in the everyday operation every single day. We have I noticed your podcast that we were talking before. I have an adult toy store that
Wow.
we operate. All really, my whole thing is to try and help people relax and meet them where they are as far as that goes. I'm not probably the least judgmental when it comes to things, and so so that's really what it's about. Now we also have a bedding, pet store, survival. When COVID hit, I was working for a luggage company, working in SEO, search engine optimization, and e-commerce for this luggage company. And when COVID happened, no one was traveling anywhere, and everyone ran around with their hair on fire. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so I came home and told my wife, I'm like, hey, Trey, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I need to start my own business. I've written 6 books.
14.
Yeah, and one came, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And when I realized, okay, I can actually do this like a McDonald's franchise or like a Chipotle franchise, that's when, and you just compound, do everything as a cookie cutter, everything, it's basically the same. Business is business. So that's what I've done so far, and it works pretty well, if I say so myself.
That's amazing. So you must have very good systems in place.
I do. Some of the stores operate off of a Shopify platform, others WooCommerce. Just depends on what their goals are. None of these stores are to take over S&H or Macy's or name the H&M. These are to provide an income for my family. I have a team of people that work with me, but I know that I don't say this too loudly, but I could actually just button everything up and operate it right out of a bedroom in my home if I needed to, and it would not be to include Melody Clouds, to be frank. I priced Melody Clouds with that in mind. I'm not trying to make millions of dollars off of this. I'm trying to help millions of people with this.
That's amazing.
2 totally different things.
That's amazing. So do you read at all? I mean, you talked about audiobooks. Do you have a book that changed your life?
Several. I just gave my daughter How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, on my shelf. Yeah.
And she became very offended. I was shocked. I was like, Reagan, what's the issue? This was a gift. What do you mean you haven't read it? She's like, you're telling me that I have to read a book in order to make friends. And I sat there and thought about it. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, if you want to get really good at something, educate yourself on the process. Mm-hmm. I was talking about this with a friend of mine just a few minutes before you and I started talking. So I mentioned I've written 6 books.
Wow.
Not one of those books did I write because I'm an expert in the material. Mm-hmm. I became an expert in the material by writing the book.
So tell us about the books you wrote.
Yes, When Bad Credit Happens to Good People, for example, is a book on credit. It's on Amazon right now. People can check it out. Hundreds of thousands of people have. I did that book because I wanted to know about consumer credit. How can I manipulate a credit score? How can I help people who have very low credit raise their credit and start participating in the economy that they could not do that before? So in order to do that, I needed to become an expert. I think you'd agree. You probably want to be an expert in the field, Wayne. Well, guess what? I became an expert in the field because I wrote a book about it. That caused me to do the research. Same thing with Melody Clouds. Every single day, I read literature, read tests, scientific studies, none of which am I trying to justify binaural beats. I'm trying to see what else is out there. What are the ramifications of doing this? I'm just as interested to know, are there side effects? Are there things long-term about this that, we need to be on guard for?
Okay, so your other books, I'm curious now.
So Credit 101, that was more of a technical manual on the credit report, because I owned a mortgage company at the time in Texas. And my loan officers kept bringing me these credit reports that people couldn't buy steam off a hot dog. I mean, it was just horrible. And I'm like, why can't you recognize who your actual customer is? So I wrote a technical manual. This is what I want you to look for on a credit report. These are customers today. These are projects for tomorrow. These are people that will never buy a home if all things are, remain the same. Then once they got that skill under their belt, I immediately had to write Mortgage 101, because in the States, it's all about the different types of mortgage products that people can use to make their lives better. If you're old and you own a home and you've paid off your home, you don't want to get a mortgage. Maybe you want to get a reverse mortgage and have that home pay you a stipend every single month. So basically it looks like, okay, we're paying. We paid off our home. Now it's time to unwind that and use the equity to give us a better life in our retirement.
Okay.
You can't do that when you first buy a home. You have no equity in that home. So maybe you want to buy a rental property and you have 15 years to pay it off. That type of thing. Then there are two others that were title training, basically training manuals for title.
Okay, so kind of related to finance then in general.
Yes, my first career, real career, was in the mortgage and lending industries. And then when the mortgage crisis happened in the US, one of the things that struck me was we learned no lessons from that. And it really bothered me. I have videos on YouTube where I tell people, don't crap on your dinner plate. Learn your lesson from this.
Okay, interesting. I love books about money personally. I'm reading The Psychology of Money at the moment. You know that one from Morgan Housel?
I have heard of it. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read it. I've been a little busy, but yeah, I'm in the process now. Right now, I'm reading a book on how to deliver a TED Talk. One of my goals.
Oh wow, that's one of my goals too. Amazing.
Yeah, I want to at least give a TEDx talk and hopefully be able to give a TED Talk at some point about binaural beats.
Oh, amazing. And also I'm reading now this workbook, Think and Grow Rich workbook, because I think sometimes, when you read a book, you don't always absorb the lessons. And I'm doing it with a friend, actually. So we're meeting every week to do one chapter a week, and then we share the
extraordinarily important. You are actually going to learn the material that way. That's how any class, any professor, that's how you teach a class. Reading alone is probably not going to, if you're me for sure, but it's probably not going to stick in your brain. It's those activities that you do along with it. I have a very good friend or acquaintance, Nolan Bushnell. He founded Atari. His project now is called Exodeca, and it's about that. It's about taking someone as a freshman in high school and getting them to graduate within 12 to 18 months. And it works. And teaching law and teaching medicine all through these programmed ways of education.
Yeah, it's really interesting to compare and contrast, and also reinforces your own ideas as well, and it can help you think. Definitely makes you think bigger, because every time I read Napoleon Hill, it makes me think bigger, and then I'm thinking bigger, and I attract bigger things into my life. It's quite extraordinary, because it's such an old book as well.
Right. I mean, relatively speaking, I remember when I was in high school, that book was very in the rage. Everybody understood, oh, okay, very wealthy families educate their children completely differently than families that don't have that kind of generational wealth. From birth, those lessons are implanted over and over and over and over again, which is why you see that generational wealth. Most families don't have that lesson to begin with, let alone be able to pass it along to their children. It is a very slow process for them.
Yeah, this just made me think about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I love as well. Like they're comparing the rich mentality and the poor mentality. The other one, the millionaire something mindset, I think, which is another way, which is kind of comparing different mindsets. But it's very interesting to think about that, and how, I mean, in the psychology of money, it talks about, lottery players, like the people who play lottery are usually, people can spend, $400 a year on that, and most people don't even have $400 for an emergency payment. But I guess for them, it's their only chance that they have of luxury, whereas other people might have other possibilities. So when you see it from that perspective, it's very, very, you understand it.
Here too, it's athletics. You see people who play a certain sport, especially men, and that's one outlet. That's one way. Boxers used to come from, and still do predominantly, from the very poorest neighborhoods. They raise these very hard scrabble, very tough boys up through the ranks, and that's and then the tip top earn millions through that sport, or football, or soccer, or whatever it is. But professional sport, that's generally where those kids come from. They don't come from wealthy families or middle class families very often.
Same with musicians, I suppose.
Same.
Came back to
same. The odds of making money, and this is what I try to impart to my daughters. I have 3 daughters, and what I try to impart to them is money should never be the end goal. That's a byproduct of hard work. And I know that it sounds counterintuitive, but if you make money the goal, that is going to repel customers from you. It is going to be much, much, much more difficult. Donald Trump, the Rockefellers, all these people that we think of as classically rich, most of them, money was a scorecard. It wasn't the end of the road to them. Elon Musk, one of the reasons that he does so many different things, hero of mine, because I know he happens to be wealthy. He happens to be. That is the result, sure, but that was never the goal for him. It was a way of keeping score, perhaps. It was a happy byproduct, but he saw a need. I need tunnels under the ground. I need to build a rocket that'll go into space and I can use it again and again. I need a way of transferring funds online with PayPal. Tesla, everyone talks about having a green car. Well, I think I know a way of building batteries that will allow me to build a car better than any of the gas-powered cars on the road.
Amazing.
None of those things did he say, I'm going to get rich selling people electric cars that, ruin the earth.
Most of the binaural beats I listen to are related to abundance and money, actually, because it's kind of interesting to think about there is a money frequency. I think it's about the mindset is very, very important as well.
Yeah, I do think that, look, there's nothing wrong. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. So there's nothing wrong with, accumulating wealth. That's actually a pretty noble thing, because you poor people don't give to charity. For the most part, you need benevolence. Benevolence comes from abundance. And so that's kind of the way that I look at it. My wife and I are very close to St. Jude's hospitals. We really admire the work that they do, and one day would love to give them, be a benefactor to them. And the only way we're ever going to be of any use to them is by accumulating or by, money, because I'm not a doctor. I can't do anything to help those kids on my own.
Definitely. It's definitely just resources and flexibility and, and stability at the same time. That's what attracts me. I'm not really a materialistic person. It's more about the peace and not worrying, because I think you're always going to have worries in life. But I mean, when you've got to a point where you're worrying about how much food you've got. It's kind of nicer to be, because I started this whole venture in 2009. I was in real estate before. So I've come from real estate as well at the worst time, 2007 to 2000.
Yeah, that's a tough time to be. Yeah, it's a tough time to do that.
Yeah, but I was literally in luxury real estate with people looking at the finest apartments in former palaces in Barcelona, and I could barely get public transport to get to work. It was like huge contrast. And I had a, pardon my French, a fuck it moment. I thought, it's now or never. I'm going to start my own blog. But thanks to that struggle, I just thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. And here I am 14 years later.
So. I think that drive for success is, look, we would be lost as a civilization without it. I mean, what is the motivation to overcome certain obstacles? Why should you care about certain obstacles? That it's to enrich yourself and those around you. Definitely. I love being able to give. Now, my middle daughter just got a full scholarship to play volleyball in Graceland University in Iowa. And I don't let it get lost on her that scholarship came from people who donated that money, who gave over that money. It wasn't free. Someone is paying for your education. You're not. Your mom and dad are not. Someone along the way signed a check that allowed you to get this scholarship and educate yourself. And at the time, when it comes time, you need to return that favor. You need to bring that back into the universe, back to the people around you. That is a responsibility that you have for accepting this responsibility, this benevolence from someone else.
Definitely. So another quick question. Do you have a quote or a phrase that you live by?
So yes, I tell people this a lot. I do not take for an answer. I cannot hear the word. Part of being deaf is I have taken that. I can't, for some reason, I can't hear it. I hear not now. I hear maybe later. I hear try it a different way, but I never hear that. And so, and I don't even know that I can't even explain how to say that to myself anymore.
That's amazing. I always ask this question to all my guests, actually, and I've had a couple of people saying that say yes. This is kind of very similar to what you're saying, because I mean, I've not seen the film Yes Man, but I know what it's about. Have you seen the film with Jim Carrey when he's
Jim Carrey, right?
But when you start saying yes to things, it's incredible what happens, isn't it? Like you can open so many doors and experience things you never anticipated.
Well, the problem with that, and look, I try and say, let's find a way to make this happen, or yes, as much as I possibly can. But there's also a point where, you need to be able to say the word. You can't, I can't. What I say is not now, maybe we figure out another way of doing it. I mean, but I find that by closing yourself off here, okay, give you a better example of this. So I always tell my daughters, if you have your hands covering your plate, protecting the food that's on it, I cannot put any more on your plate. So remove your hands, share with others what you've been given. That way I can make room for what else is next. And I also tell them, when they come to me and say, Reagan got this or Morgan got that, I always tell them, don't you dare look in your sister's bowl unless you're looking to put something in it. Yeah. What's in her bowl is of no consequence to you, unless you want to find out if there's room for her to have more. And they understood that admonition very, very well. They understand that extremely well, and they constantly help one another as opposed to fighting over the resources.
Amazing.
I watch it every day. My wife looks at me like, man, they really took that lesson well.
Excellent. So where can people find you?
Best way is Wayne Altman at Melody Clouds. That is the greatest. That's the best way of reaching me right now.
And the Melody Clouds website?
on melodyclouds.com.
Okay.
So it's, Melody Clouds, all one word, and it's s.com. And yeah, there's a contact form there. If people want to share their music, we are definitely open to exposing new artists to the world. And we do that all the time. I have a featured artist every single month, and that person brings whatever music, whatever style of music they play or can perform. Some with binaural beats, some that do not. And yeah, we just, I'm always on the look. I'm always trying to help other people expose more people to what it is they're doing.
Excellent. So Wayne Altman, thank you so much. It's been very informative.
Oh, wow. That was pretty fast. You are very good at this. That flew by. I hope it did for everybody listening, but man, how shocking that was.
We just